Welcome, everybody, to the Everything Automotive Podcast, Episode 1, brought to you by Imperium Racing. So, I'm Zach.
I'm Josh.
And today's episode is going to be underrated cars for under $10,000.
Reasonably priced cars. We're going to kick that off with the Lexus IS 300. I'm talking about model years 2001 through 2005. It comes with a 2JZ GE engine, not to be confused with the notorious Supra 2JZ GTE engine. However, this one's naturally aspirated, still an inline 6, makes 215 horsepower and 220 pound-feet of torque. So pretty reasonable numbers there. It's 3,200 pounds. It's a sedan, so it's not going to be the quickest thing, but it's a nice looking,
luxurious
Lexus, nice car.
Yeah.
It's rear-wheel drive. Like I said, 3,200 pounds. Could be a grocery getter. Could be your daily drifted car, you know.
I feel like a lot of Lexus I see are kind of like, if they're in a car scene, or like stanced out. Or
Yeah.
But they're
wheels,
usually clean.
Put some coils. Yeah, just clean,
nice
car, you know. You throw an LSD on there, go drifting, have some fun. Can't just swipe on the 2JZ GTE turbo, though. You have to go a whole nother route or swap the whole engine in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because the heads don't line up with the exhaust and the turbo. You can't just swap on the turbo and make it that easy. You'd have to go a whole nother route. But
full engine swap or something.
Yeah.
Or just get the Lexus and just tell people you have a 2J.
Yeah.
Z. You might be lying.
2J. No, you're not lying because you do have a 2JZ. You just don't have the one that they're thinking in their head. But
yeah, I feel like they should have gone more than just one letter different in the engine designation if there's a whole bunch of internal differences.
Exactly, yeah. And everything. You think of the T, the only difference is the T. Okay, the only difference is the turbo. But you're wrong because the 2JZ GTE has the oil squirters under the pistons. It has cam piston sensors. It has a coil on-plug setup.
Cam position sensors, right?
Yeah. Cam positioning sensors and quite a few other differences, yeah. Not just the turbo.
Right. Just got to go full swap then. Put
full
a whole engine harness, ECU.
LS swap it.
Into the Lexus and make a sleeper.
Yeah. But, you'd have to throw in the whole other engine. You can't just do heads. I mean, you could do all the little meticulous, tedious things to it, but it would end up running right around the same as just a full swap. So
right. Might as well.
But, you could pick those up for around $10,000 for a nice one, low mileage. You could get an older beat-up one for around $5,000 actually, so pretty good deal on those.
Pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Pretty reasonable.
I feel like they're underrated. Not very many on the road. They kind of just look like grocery getters, but
yeah,
they're good.
Nice. Well, I'm going to go American for my first one. Well, kind of American, I guess.
America.
Pontiac Gto from 2004 to 2006, so the most recent iteration of the GTO. And I found it funny, the history of this car is just change, I think, because in 64 it was a trim level package, and in 1966 it was its own car, it was a GTO, and then in 72 it went back to GTO just being a trim level option again.
Interesting.
But it's considered to be the first muscle car in the 60s, kind of started the muscle car trend is what people say. But the more recent one, 2004, 2006, came with an LS1 in 2004 and then an LS2 in 05 and 06. So it started at 350 horsepower, 365 foot-pounds of torque, and then both of those numbers went to 400 when it got the LS2.
Very respectable.
Yeah, it's a lot of power and a reliable, easily modifiable power. Yeah,
reliable, modifiable, yeah. And something elseable, you know?
Downright lovable. I don't know. That kind of works.
Yeah. Rock on.
But, so just like it changed from a package to a card back to a trim package again, in the 60s, the more recent one in the 2000s, started as an Opel Omega, which had a Cadillac version, and then that turned into a Commodore, and then turned into the Holden Monaro, and
exotic.
They took the Holden Monaro and just rebadged it as a GTO in the United States. But the Holden was made from 01 to 06 and had a LS1 and an LS3 And then the GTO was only 04 to 06 and had a LS1 and LS2. So even then, they're still just changing little things.
Australians love the LS engines almost as much as us Americans, you know.
The Holdens are cool. I mean, it's funny because the Holden looks identical. It's just different badges.
Branding.
But, so the history of that car is literally just change, I think.
Definitely.
But it did 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, which is pretty quick. Came in auto or manual. 6-speed manual, so that's nice.
Wow.
You can still cruise on the freeway. And it was made in Australia, obviously, because the Holden was the main one, and they just rebadged them and brought them over here.
Interesting.
But yeah, still pretty quick, 0 to 60 in 4.7, and you can find one for $10,000. Maybe a good one with low miles is a little more, but most of them are $8,000 or $9,000, because it is a 15-year-old car now.
Modestly priced.
That's still a good amount of power, though, even for now.
Bang for the buck.
15 years later, it's still good. So that's my second one.
Definitely. I guess we'll go into number 3 here. We're going to do the E55 AMG, the W211 chassis. That's 5.4 liter supercharged engine, making 469 horsepower. Talking about model years 2003 to 2006. An MSRP'd at $80,000, so that was the base price. You can work your way up probably closer to 90, even probably close to 100 if you throw in all the packages Mercedes offers. But so red lines at 6,100 RPM. Peak torque kicks in at 2,600 RPM though, so probably
you'll feel it real
get
quick.
it off the start. So that one actually does 0 to 60 in 4.5. So tad bit faster than the GTO. One up me on that one. Yeah, I didn't even know. But yeah, it's probably because the supercharged engine, you know, you can't just feel it from the start, even though it's a pretty heavy car, pretty beefy. Gets 0 to 100 in 10 seconds, 0 to 150 in 24 seconds. So pretty quick, but it's governed at 155, so that's kind of the limit there.
That's very respectable considering it's bigger than the GTO and more luxurious.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a
around the same
line.
time frame, but
it's like a sled, you know, just taking it downhill. But has Brembo brakes. You need some big brakes for a big car like that. 6 piston in the front, 4 in the rear.
So as long as you can pay for brake pads and spark plugs.
Exactly. Yeah, spark plugs. There's 2 spark plugs per cylinder on that. So yeah, you got a lot of spark plugs and a lot of brake power. You know, you gotta keep maintaining. But only 7,500 of these were brought over to the States. You know, they did about 1,500 a year or so, and give or take. But yeah, they're pretty rare, pretty nice. I feel like they're very underrated.
And they came in a wagon.
Zach loves the wagons, you know.
Love my wagons.
Loves the wagons. But the engines are pretty considered bulletproof. Like I've seen some with like 200,000 miles, which for a Mercedes is pretty insane because there's not a whole lot of technology to go wrong on the engine side of it.
For a performance car too, I feel like that's high. Like people get those, but they actually drive them a lot.
They floor it down the highway, you know.
Yeah, it's reliable performance right there.
Yeah. Going to number 4 here.
Yeah, so for my next one, I'm just doing the honorable mention category.
Okay.
Instead of one car, so I just got a handful here that barely didn't make the list.
Barely close, but no cigar.
Yeah. So first, I'm gonna throw the boring Corolla on there, just because I feel like they're underrated as far as price and reliability.
Very reliable.
You don't really meet many people that are like, you know what, I'm going to go buy a Toyota Corolla, and they're like excited about it. But you can get a brand new one for like 17 to 19,000, which is crazy for a 2020 car.
It'll last you forever.
Yeah, so for $10,000 you can get one that's only a few years old, handful of years old.
Definitely.
And it's still, you know, low mileage, and it'll last another 500,000 miles or whatever. I don't know. They haven't changed anything with that engine in 40 years.
Make it a million. You know?
Yeah, so they last forever, and they're just super cheap. I also have a NC Miata on here. It seemed like the 08 and older kind of fit into this price range, and of course, you know, everyone knows Miatas are little
go-karts.
Yeah, those little guys scooting around. As long as you can fit in them and you don't have a lot of friends to fit in there with you.
That's me.
Then yeah. As long as there's only 2 people, they're pretty good. They're pretty quick. People like them. You can modify them. There's information out there on them.
Definitely.
And then Pontiac G8, I wanted to put on here But the
Big
GTO
boy.
made it, because the G8's a little bigger. It's a 4-door, and they held their value a little more, maybe because it's a 4-door.
Interesting.
But they're a little too expensive to get on this list. But
maybe people have more friends now. They need more doors.
yeah, they
More
need
doors
more
for
doors in
more
their life.
friends.
But yeah, those held their value, and they also have LS engines, so reliable and a shitload of power. And then the Forester XT, I think the second gens look super cool. I love those boxy Foresters.
Subi.
Yeah. Who's in like a good Subaru.
Yeah.
And XTs are pretty cool. I'm sure you can modify
Lower
those
it.
pretty easily.
Throw some wheels on. Little tinted windows,
Yeah.
up the boost, and you got a nice car.
Lower it in wheels, or you could lift it and knobby tires. I don't know. It's
Let's
probably
do
lift
it.
kits for them.
Off-road.
And then 350Z and WRX, another Subaru. All just
Nice,
common little
respectable
tuner
cars. 350Z has like 300 horsepower. You could send it on that. Find them for like 5,000. Definitely less than 10.
Yeah, those are cheap.
Yeah.
Even WRX is now maybe 10 years old, or even 5. Yeah, probably
Pick
like
up a
8 or 10
Hawkeye,
years old or more.
Yeah.
Are pretty cheap. But I wasn't sure if those fit the underrated. I feel like we have a little more of like rare cars you wouldn't think of on this list.
Exactly.
So,
Underrated.
yeah, a little too common to make this list.
Just above underrated.
Yeah.
They're normally rated.
Yeah. What's your next underrated though?
My next, I'm gonna go with the Honda CR-V. I feel like those are hated on. I feel like they're underrated. Super reliable, K24 engine. Get 500,000 miles on that thing.
All-wheel drive.
All-wheel drive. I'm talking about the 2007 through 2011 CR-V all-wheel drive. Take it to the snow. Take your family out in it. Go grocery shopping. Have a good old time. Not worry about it. For under $10,000, can't really beat that. I feel like that's underrated.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah.
I still really want a second gen because the first and second gen came in a manual, but the second gen is a little nicer, and they're really cheap. You can get one for like $4,000.
Oh yeah, under $5,000 for that.
I just want to get one of those manual and put off-road tires on it. That's all I want.
And a fat turbo.
Yeah, fucking turbo. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff you could do to that engine out there. So
yeah, but yeah, you could pick up a 07 to a 2011, under 10,000 all day. Around 100,000 miles,
Yeah, and Honda's got that reliability down. My
Definitely.
2000 Honda CR-V had 373,000 miles on it when I sold it.
Case
Still
in point.
ran great.
Yeah.
B-Series engine. Ran great.
Gotta love it.
Should I finish this off?
It's all up to you.
Bouncing back to Mercedes. I got a C-Class on here, but not any C-Class. So the Mercedes C-Class is made from 1993 until now. They still make them. And I'm talking about second generation, which was from 2000 to 2007, which actually had a diesel option you could get, which I think I've seen. They're a little rare here, a little more popular in like Europe.
Yeah,
but
sure.
But they have them. They also had for the second gen was a C32 AMG, which came with a supercharged V6, similar to your E55, just a couple less cylinders. And it was a 3.2 liter, and it had 350 horsepower and 332 foot-pounds of torque.
Very respectable.
Yeah, a different style supercharger than the basic economy 4 cylinders that came in that generation of C-Classes. This was a performance one.
Performance makes the difference.
Yeah, but again, that's a lot of horsepower.
Oh, yeah.
Smaller than E-Class, like a nice little, probably one of the more compact luxury cars you could get.
Definitely. Mercedes is known for their luxury.
Yeah, and it did 0 to 60 in 4.7, just like the GTO.
Pretty quick.
Significantly, or a good amount less horsepower and torque.
Yeah.
And just like your E-Class, you could just do a pulley upgrade on the supercharger and a tune and
make it a lot quicker.
Really easily.
Definitely.
And still reliable.
Exactly.
Superchargers, there's not a lot of
strain
extra
on the
parts
engine,
like a turbo.
Yeah.
It's pretty reliable. So
Definitely.
I think that's a pretty underrated car. A lot of people don't really know about C32s.
Honestly, I hadn't heard a lot about it before this. So
yeah, and I like the way they look too. They look pretty cool. But you can find one for under 10. Most of the ones I've seen are 8,000 or 9,000.
Sign me up.
Yeah, sometimes if they're really nice, they'll be more than 10. But I've seen some sell for really cheap. like 5 or 6, but 8 or 9 seems to be the average. So
Nice.
pretty good car you can get for under
All
10K.
day. 10 cars, 6 cars, under 10K.
Underrated as... Yep. So.
Yep, that was Imperium Racing Podcast.
Yep. That's podcast number 1, underrated for under 10K.
Numero uno.
Keep following. There's more podcasts to come. There's more shirts to come, if you can see this.
That's a shirt.
And everything's coming out, so follow, subscribe.
Follow, like, subscribe.
Thanks for listening.
Peace.